And hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Backstage Banter with Jay and Brian. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the word value. As in, what are we worth? How do we value ourselves when it comes time to charging clients for our services? So, value, it's an important one. So stick around and we're going to tell you all about it. Hey there.
Hey.
What's up, my friend Brian?
What's up, Jay? How's it going?
How are you? I'm good, man. I'm good. I haven't talked to you in a while, man.
Yeah, I
How
know
are
it's
you?
been a bit. It's
It's
going really good. Staying busy,
good. Yes.
just banging them out over here in
Yeah,
Orlando.
over in that corporate world,
Oh gosh,
the
yeah.
corporate America that you have dove into from the arts.
Yeah,
You went to the
that's
dark side.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
But
the
they all
nonprofit corporate side,
yeah, except
nonetheless.
it pays you. Nonprofit doesn't mean you don't get paid, everybody. Let's make
That's
sure
true.
you all understand
That
that,
is a
right?
fallacy for sure.
Yeah. My students say I'd say I do a lot of charity events. They say, "Oh, you work? Oh, isn't that nice?" I go, "I do not work for free. Let me tell you, I
Hmm.
if I choose the charity, I choose that I will work for free, like the Jason Mraz Foundation for for something that's dear to my heart. I will, but things that aren't really that I get hired for, I don't necessarily work for free at all.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, what has you been up to? Yeah, so school started,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun, the whole syllabus thing. I think the syllabus episode is before this one. So, for those of you that heard the syllabus episode, yeah, it went over really well with students this semester. They looked at me like I was insane, and then have gotten into it. Yeah, they've gotten into it. So, we're off to the race. I have 24 stage management students in my
Oh my
class.
God, that's a lot.
Dude, I normally get like 10. I had to find a
Hmm.
bigger classroom. I don't know what happened. Maybe the
Wow.
word's out that, I don't know. Maybe
That's good
word's
though.
out that,
That means
yeah,
that you'll have plenty of people to help manage all these productions,
oh
and
man,
that's
normally I have to
great.
like, who wants to stage manage and
Crickets.
you kind of because they're scared. And this time, I have a lot of students who are been to junior college and 2 years of experience at JC and transferring in with experience, and that's really unusual for me. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I have.
Do you think that'll be a challenge, or do you think that'll be an asset?
I think it's going to be an asset because I know what school they went to. And
Yeah.
I know who trained them already, right? Because I know Craig a great deal. Craig is married to our former advisor, CJ Keith, who's been with San Diego State for many years, and a dear friend. And her husband, Craig, runs Grossmont College, and I know their program, and I know that they're coming over here with some experience, and I guess the disadvantage would be having to choose who wants to do it. But the thing is, it's like they're self-selecting because they're like, oh, I can't do it this semester because I'm doing this, but I could do this semester. So it kind of works out,
Yeah.
I never really, I mean, I'll find out this semester, but for instance, I had a lot of them, raise their hand about wanting to be a part of a show. I lost one stage manager because they decided to do a different show off campus, and so I went into class today and I said, "Hey, who wants to assistant stage manage?" And a couple raised their hand. I said, "Who wants to stage manage?" And not so much. I said, "I need one for the Thanksgiving play." And so I looked at her name was Casey, and I said, "Hey, so you raised your hand to be an assistant stage manager?" She says, "Yes." I go, "What about being a stage manager?" And her eyes went like, "Oh, deer in the headlight," right? Like, "Oh, a challenge. Oh, I don't think I'm qualified." Blah blah blah. And I
Hmm.
said, "You can do it." And she said, "Okay." So um, it was good. I think that's to challenge them to go beyond what they think they can do, and
Hmm.
encourage them and say, listen, I'm going to be here. I will be your mentor. I'm not going to, if you fail, if you fall, you'll be caught. There's a net
Yeah.
there. So
Right.
do it. What have you got to lose? Right. What have you got
Exactly.
to lose?
Yeah.
And and the show is a good show. It's with a great director, a dear friend. He's good on stage managers. Et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's,
Yeah.
I have to think about those things. I can't put a brand new stage
Absolutely.
manager into the musical MFA program. Like that's,
Yeah.
I got to be a little more challenged by that. But, you know, It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm excited. And yeah, so we had a class today, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 1 to 2.
Nice. So what kind of music are you listening to lately? You got anything
Oh,
new on your playlist?
well, yeah, SZA. Um,
SZA. Oh, is that the one that you
SZA.
mentioned to me a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago?
the song Saturn, man. It's kind of where I was, where I've been in this kind of emotional place. Like sometimes shit just gets fucking heavy, and um, it's a good song, man. Yeah, life's better on Saturn. Let's just get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a good song. So I like
Yeah.
SZA a lot. Um, my niece, turned me on to SZA. She's 15 and a half. Listening, yeah, and like, listening to the emotional stuff, but it's good, man. It's good. And then some of the Gen Zs are like into classic rock, so we're listening to Led Zeppelin. Right now, I'm listening to Green Day, believe it or not,
Oh,
because
nice.
yeah, yeah. So I've got some buddies that work for Live Nation, director of global touring, big stuff, and another good friend is director of security for Live Nation, and he is he's the guy that they call for. So he has his last three tours were Madonna, Lady Gaga, JC Beyonce on the run too, and Rihanna, and is now head of security for Green Day. So
Okay.
they also talk in my class. They come in, they zoom into my class, and my friend John actually comes into class because he's Sting's tour manager, guy. So he goes out with Sting, and I'll be damned, man. He'll be in Abu Dhabi, and he's flying back that day, and he's like, "I'm coming to your class." Like these guys are committed to mentorship, and I love
That's amazing.
those. Oh, my friends, man, God bless them. They
Yeah.
all want to be a part of it. So my friend, the director of security, we're kind of having this powwow about what we're going to do. They're coming in on the 9th. Steve is director of global events for Live Nation in Los Angeles, like puts together, and his first shows were Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney. It's like, wow,
Wow.
you work for two Beatles and one of them's dead. I mean,
Yeah.
so he's amazing, and John is amazing, and I've known John. He started as a security guard and parking cars, at the venues here, and we all have a story about where we started, and I think it's inspirational. And then Bruno is, he comes from Canada. We make fun of him, so he's Canadian. He started as a security guy in an arena taking care of a hockey team, and now
Wow.
he's, yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
not three. So Green Day is coming to San Diego, September 27, 28. They're loading in on the 27th, and Bruno's, contacted me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to invite your class to the load in, because we've got the VP of Live Nation and the production manager all would like to speak to your students." And I'm like,
Oh
"Whoa,
yeah, that's a great
hell
opportunity.
yeah, man." And then they said, we can get you tickets for the show the next day. They might be obstructed views, and kind of shitty single seats, but I'm like, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so they don't know about it yet. They're going to find out on Monday, and I'm going to let Bruno. Uh, we actually have the writer for Green Day for this year, and so we're going to kind of open. I'm going to make a joke about what they need in their thing. I have the writer from 2000 when they toured with Blink 182
Right.
and
Yeah.
Green Day, and there was some funny stuff on the writer there. Travis wants underwear because he doesn't do laundry, and he throws his under he plays in his underwear, and then he throws them away when he's
Yeah.
done.
I recently
Uh,
worked on this K-pop show, and
oh
they have two teams of production. Have you worked with K-pop groups
no,
before?
no, I haven't. No,
So
no.
they have two teams. They have an American team and they have a Korean team. And the
Oh,
American team comes in and they kind of get everything set up, and then they hand it over to the Korean team. And
wow.
their writer was interesting because it shows like they have to have an American breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they have a Korean breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there's like
I'll be
two
done.
separate meals, and
Oh my
like the
gosh.
artist want a specific kind of thing, and then the crew
Yeah,
wants a specific kind of thing. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's all very different stuff.
Oh
So
man, I'll tell you, the writers are fun.
yeah.
I got to tell you, there was a certain well, how do I? Well, it was a certain hip hop artist who played with us, three of his friends, and the writer said had to have a 55-inch TV with a sports channel, sports direct TV, playing when he comes in, and things like that. So, and
Yeah.
we did it. Of course, we do it.
Hmm.
Because you got to make those relationships. It's like. fulfilling the writer, a lot of people are like, oh fuck, what do they want that for? And they're negotiable things. I mean, if you get with a production manager and say, hey, I want to go open. First off, I want to make sure I have the correct one because they're always wrong.
Yeah.
And,
Or do
and,
we have
and
the right
second,
date?
do we have the right writer? And the second one is, can we go through it and make sure that, like, they still want this because we don't want to waste shit. That's
Right.
my angle is that, listen, if they're not eating the Triscuits and the cheese, let's just not bring it. Don't get it and then have it be just
Go to
sit there.
waste. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're negotiable, I mean, there's some shit on there that's like, there was somebody wanted like a $400,000 fucking car, or
Oh
something.
my gosh.
And sometimes they put stuff in there to make sure that you read it, right? Which is the
Hmm.
notorious green M&M story,
Yeah.
with David Lee Roth and Van Halen. It wasn't that they wanted to eat the green M&Ms. It was that they wanted to make sure that you read the writer, because
Hmm.
when they got off the bus and got in their dressing room, if there was multicolored M&Ms, David Lee Roth would be like, these guys are not paying attention to his manager, and make sure that you keep an eye on these fuckers because they're not doing. And if you had the green M&Ms and he walked in, man, the day is good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like,
The details.
it's negotiable. Of course, you don't provide, some of the stuff that they ask for. And listen, and the production managers are they'll say, no, you know what? No, we don't need that. No, and some of them aren't. Some of them are like, fulfill the writer, just fuck off. Just fulfill what's on. Yes, we need everything on the list, which is fine. And then you go clean out at the end of the room, and the Triscuits and the cheese are there, and then you give it to the
Right.
stagehands. You give
Yeah.
it to, yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
yeah, the writers are fun, right? And you've already
Hmm.
told me what you'd have in your writer. It was like some candy, some something, I think,
Yeah.
and some scotch, I think, some
Yeah, yeah.
whiskey,
Some
yeah,
single
and
malt scotch, Red
yeah,
Bull, and
yeah, and
water or
water,
something.
water, yeah, yeah,
Sour
yeah,
Patch
yeah.
Kids.
Not to sound, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
So
what are we
yeah,
talking about
so
today?
we are. Oh, you don't know, do you? This
I
is going to
don't
be a
know. This is
surprise. This
a
is
surprise for me.
first time we're trying the surprise thing.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about today is, drum roll, please.
Well,
Valuing ourselves. Valuing ourselves.
okay.
How much are we worth? You know,
What's our
it's a
value?
yeah, and my students ask that a lot. How much do you get paid, right? To do, and I don't say it's none of your business, right? We go through it. But they don't know how to value themselves. They don't know what to ask for. And what they don't know too is that um um there are things that are valuable that aren't money. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. When you go to take a job, like, you got to look at not just the money, right?
Yeah.
What else is valuable that you might get either out of an internship or something, because again, we say, hey, do you say yes to everything? Yeah, pretty much, but start to think about what you're worth.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, hourly, sure. I mean, there's an
And
industry
also
standard.
like
There's some,
quality of life too, because like you said, it's not just about the money, but it's about like what's your day to day, week to week, what is that like grind and how does that affect your quality of life overall?
sure, sure. Yeah. If there is there any balance available in the job, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But for freelancers, it's they've got to, and it happens to me too, man. When people say, "Well, what's your rate?" Like, I don't just say blah blah blah. I mean, there's an industry standard for a day rate, right? If you're in the
Yeah.
corporate world, basically, it's a 10-hour day. And in my world here in San Diego, it's anywhere between $800 and $1,000 for a 10-hour day. Time and a half after 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours is time and a half, and anything after 12 hours is double time.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if that's where you are, as far as rates go. But that's kind of
I
the
actually don't know anything about the freelance rates here because I haven't had a
right,
need to do
right,
any freelance work out here
right,
yet.
right,
So
right.
it's probably much lower though if I was gonna
Because of,
guess.
yeah,
Just
Florida,
because
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a great website, and if we can plug this, is Tempo Live. Nancy Spooner runs that, and it's not only a think tank, it's a placement, it's a headhunter placement thing that Nancy lines up corporate folks with
Oh
freelancers,
yeah,
and then
I just learned about this like a few months ago, like
yeah,
not by you
yeah.
either. It's like
Yeah,
randomly.
yeah, yeah. She's great. She's great. And so maybe we can post that somewhere in our podcast. But yeah, you upload your resume or your CV, and then she'll put it on an announcement. Gig, St. Louis, Missouri starts this time. They need a show caller, 20 hours of prep, 2 weeks of stuff, per diem rate, for first come first serve. And then she connects people, so it's
Nice.
very cool. And then she gets together and we have think tanks with live Zoom calls and stuff. So
Hmm.
tempo dot
That's pretty
com.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So in terms of
yeah,
like value
yeah. Value. Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like
Let's go
that,
back to that.
something that I really think about whenever I'm interviewing for a job or I'm looking for work or I'm talking to someone about a new employer or freelance or whatever it is, the two things that I definitely look for is, am I getting paid on W-2 or am I getting paid 1099?
Oh,
And
big
then
topic.
and then also, do I have 2 days off? Do I have one day off?
Right,
Is it a weekend? Because in equity, they do 6 days a week and you only get
right,
one full day off. And other employers give you 2 days off. Some don't
right,
give you 2 days off in a row, some do. So I think like
right.
in terms of balance, I think that's something that I've come to really value in like my day to day and week to week routine is like having 2 full days off and actually having a weekend to where you don't really have to think about work
Right.
is something that when you don't have it, you're like, oh, like I really wish I
Yeah,
had a weekend to
yeah,
like
for
just
sure.
chill and do whatever I want. But
Yeah, for sure.
also, like if you're a freelance, whether or not getting paid W-2 or 1099 can really impact how much you're actually
Yeah,
bringing home because typically you're having to pay those in self-employment taxes later on
yeah,
if you're
man.
freelancing.
Yeah, you
And so
you
I think
pay you
that's
pay
really
the other
important.
half. Yeah, it's like
Exactly.
14%, and the
It's
1099 rules have
25%.
changed. Oh, oh, really?
It's
Oh, you mean
25%. That's self-employment tax. Yeah. So if you claim 1099, the amount that you have to pay is 25%.
25%? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's because you're picking up the half of the employer's contribution that would have been W-2. But
Exactly.
the 1099s have changed, man. It's not so easy anymore, and we should probably, elaborate on that in another episode. But you can't call yourself an independent contractor if somebody else is telling you what to do and has control of your schedule.
Yeah.
A plumber is a 1099 because they'll tell you when they're going to come and you have no control over the plumber, and he fixes your sink and then he leaves.
Yeah.
um, and you have no workers comp insurance when you're 1099, which as a W-2 employee you are covered with workers comp insurance.
Right.
um, and the thing, going back to that thing of days off, some of these are 1 day 2 day gigs. These you go in, you do bam bam, and you're done. So sometimes you get to choose your schedule. No, I don't want to fill my week here. I need this week off or something. But
Hmm.
yeah. So besides money, yeah, man, balance is definitely one,
Yeah.
for sure. And analyzing that a little bit. But what are we worth hourly? So I say to myself, I start with, okay, well, what's minimum wage in California? $17 an hour. Okay. Do you think stage managing a show or an event is at $18 an hour? And they look at me and I go, and I agree. And anybody that asks me to provide a stage manager, I get a lot of inquiries from the public. Oh, don't they need experience? I'm like, yeah, they do, but they also need to be paid.
Yeah.
Free internships are I do rarely do them. I mean, even the Globe pays people now for their internships. The old
Hardly.
Globe. Yeah. Well, $17 an hour, but at least it's better than free.
Yeah.
No, we don't pay you, but we're going to give you credit. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, putting a nice company like the old Globe is another option, besides money, like having the ability to put that gig on a resume
Yeah.
is a resource. Like that's valuable. That has value to it. And if you put, the head of the organization name on that as your supervisor, if I see Leela Knox or Ben Toron on there as their manager,
Hmm.
um, boom, right? That
There is,
that
yeah,
says
a
all.
certain amount of value that adds to your
There
resume.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing, is references. If you can get a reference out of this situation, that is a value also, right? If
Hmm.
you can get somebody to write you a letter of recommendation. The relationships, the ongoing relationships. Sometimes you don't take the money, but you think there's an opportunity by investing your time, right? And I'm doing that on a couple projects myself right now. It's called sweat equity, and I see the potential, right, on these projects, and if you do it right, I see the potential for it to be something could be lucrative in a couple of different ways. So I choose to work with these three filmmakers to work on this project because I believe in it, right? So sometimes you do it for free up and because you believe in it. Something in your
Yeah.
gut tells you,
And you'll get some sort of return later on
well,
for
you know
the
what,
work you
man?
put in.
Listen, I work for free for these guys. They're really wonderful dudes. And, a couple weeks ago, one of them said, Jay, we have been the three of us who've been trying to develop this filmmaking platform. And you're now the fourth leg of our table, And I was like, oh, that made me feel good. That made me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had some film students like check it out. And they're like, wow, this could revolutionize the industry,
Yeah. Right.
for indie filmmakers. So it's something that I think has potential. A couple of my film professors were like, wow, this is cool. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna invest my time in it because, maybe Netflix will come in and buy it and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's what
So,
happened to, something like Siri that was essentially like a revolutionary voice dictation app, and Apple bought it up and look what it turned into,
right.
And
Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing a
people use
stand-up
it every
routine
day.
about her,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If she doesn't understand me,
Yeah.
when I do the
But
text to talk thing. But,
I I
so
think
go ahead.
but I think in terms of like valuing yourself, I think that it's important to it's not only the time that you are in rehearsals or that you're in performances or in meetings, but it's also the time that you're prepping, the time that maybe you're
Oh,
not maybe
absolutely.
that you're doing
Absolutely.
work that's not
Yeah.
inside the rehearsal room. It's also the
Yeah.
years of experience. It's also
Yeah.
your intuition.
Yeah.
And it's also your relationships that you've built, like the
Yeah.
relationships that we built that we leverage in order to make a production more successful because we get a better rate for a backline deal, or we
Absolutely.
get, we can get this done faster, or we can, bring these two external groups together so we can collaborate on this thing that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And
Absolutely.
I think that like acknowledging and recognizing those type of things that you bring to the role that are not necessarily
Right.
about the time you dedicate to a production, but also the insight that you bring. Like if you're coming into a production that requires aerial flying and you have a background working with aerial flying and performers and automation that no one else has, that's a value skill that you're bringing into a
100%.
production that you have insight that just nobody else has. They don't have that context in their realm of experience. And
A hundred
so
percent.
if you come into a group of people and essentially you're kind of the smartest person in the room when it comes to stuff like that if
Well,
you've worked it with it. So I think
yeah,
that,
but
sort of assessing like the dynamics of the group and also the needs of the production and how you can bring your skill set, that
right.
has a lot of value to it as well. And I think
A
that's
hundred percent.
worth to,
Yeah,
putting in terms of putting a value on something.
definitely, man. Definitely. And the way that I go about it, if a client, like I have a brand new client, they were kind of on the fence, and I have a middle person, that knows me, that knows my work. So they go out and they get clients from a CEO kind of standpoint, and they are mentoring the organization, and then they say we want to do an event. They go, okay, we know this guy, right? I got a guy. And a lot of clients don't realize that if they go to a hotel and they get a bid from the in-house company, they think that it's an exclusive, like they're not allowed to use outside sources, and I correct them on that. And I could beat their prices, but they're going to then charge you a liaison fee, right? Or they're going to charge you for power. They have a lot of negotiable stuff. So what's been happening lately is I say, okay, well, use the in-house people, but let me be your management of over being the interface between the in-house people because I know their games, right? And I
Mhm.
know what stuff is worth. So what I say is, okay, here's my day rate for a 12-hour day. And I'm going to say, I'm going to build in 5 1-hour meetings. Here's my meeting rate, and anything over that, then we'll do a supplemental bill. And again, they're like, oh, we don't know you, blah, blah, blah. And what I say to them is, I can almost guarantee you, probably 95% of the time, I will save you as much money as it is to cover my fee.
Mhm.
Just because we find stupid stuff. Like, do you really need this, right? And they're like, well, no, probably not. I go, well, there's $1,500 of a sound system you really don't need, right?
Yeah.
Because they just don't know. They don't have the
Yeah,
knowledge of.
someone recommended it and they just went with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were like, there's this we're doing it on the deck of the Midway, USS Midway, and
Okay.
do you do the dinner upstairs, downstairs? Where's the band gonna go? There's a parachutist is gonna come in and land. They were gonna have like the
Yeah.
Navy band, like do a fanfare for the guy to land. I'm like, I
If
mean,
he
do it on
lands.
a well, trust me, it took 35 minutes of a meeting with him to figure out how he's gonna land.
Yeah.
Um, but do you really need like to have the entire band there to do a fanfare because it's a sound system, it's this, it's that, it's getting them up there, it's getting, where do the all these parameters of you really could just do a Spotify track, of a fanfare, and you don't need all that stuff. And the people who are drinking the cocktails at the VIP event don't really give a shit, really, I don't think,
Yeah.
about whether, who's playing. It's background music.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but so that's what I try to point out. And sometimes they say, yeah, I need that, right? Like,
Hmm.
do you really need an 11-piece band? Versus, like that's a lot of monitors, it's a lot of sounds, a lot of microphones. Um, do you need that much? Because that's what the bandmaster said, right?
Right. Exactly.
So, I think they get a little bit nervous when they find out that I'm on board because I'm going to ask the hard
Yeah.
questions.
Well,
And I'm going
it's
to,
assessing all of those things and asking those questions like, okay, like, these are all the things that you are asking for that you were recommended or that you think you need, but
right,
like because you have the context of all of the different types of events that you've worked on and that you've produced and that you've
right, right.
together that you understand how all those pieces to go together better. And
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
do we really need that? Like you can still achieve the same outcome with using a Spotify track as you can with yeah,
Yeah,
it may not be
yeah.
as
Well, it's a
big and
VIP.
fancy or whatever,
Yeah,
but
and it's a VIP thing. It's not the main event, right?
yeah.
But the other thing that happens is the event planner for the organization, not the venue, says, okay, we're going to do a 24 by 16 stage, right? And you're like, oh, okay. What goes on it is my first question, right? And
Yeah.
well, an 11-piece band. Well, okay, well, a
Yeah,
a
right.
drum riser is 8 by 8. So now you have
Yeah.
8 feet of down, and you have monitor wedges, or are they doing in-ear monitors? Well, if they do in-ears, that's very expensive.
Yeah.
Where's the lecturing going to go? Where's the podium going to go? Dancers. Then and they've laid out the tables, right? They've laid out the 30 tables for the 300 people. And then I go, what about, are you this is a dance thing, isn't it? They're like, oh yeah, the dance floor. And like, well,
Where's
what
that?
are you going to do, right? And then you look at them, you try to help them with their run of show because
Hmm.
there's a thing, man. Listen, people want to do their thing. They want to go to the auction. They want to raise the money, and then they want to eat their dinner. And most of them want to go home, right?
Yeah.
So if you give them an opportunity to get out of there, like a little break, they're going to go. So for
Yeah.
me, when I say, listen, your run of show should be blah, 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 blah. Thank you, good night. And here's the band. Like they're on stage already. Because if you go thank you, good night, and coming up in a few minutes is the band, those people are out.
Yeah.
They're gone. So you got to like make the show flow be, conducive
Gotta
to
hold their
let's,
attention.
yeah, get on the dance floor. Here we go. Boom, and you start,
Right.
and a lot of people don't know. They don't think about those kind of things, those little
Yeah,
details.
exactly. It's the people that they're hiring us, they don't have that mentality, they don't have that production
Well,
mentality of how
no, they
to
don't. They don't.
things,
Yeah,
the flow of things, the rhythm, the
yeah,
pace,
yeah.
all
Well,
of that
yeah,
is really important that a lot of people don't really understand until you've done it and you really get how that goes. And they're like, oh
right,
yeah, like,
right.
oh, I didn't think of
Yeah.
that. I didn't consider that. But yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. And that's how I feel what I bring to the table, right? To these
Yeah.
event planners that are kind of new in these organizations that I haven't worked for before. It's just I don't want to tell you how to do things, or make you change, but just be aware that a 24 by 16 stage with an 11-piece band and four of them are horns, and three singers and a drummer and a guitar and it
Yeah.
goes into like, well, are there amplifiers on stage or are we going direct into the board
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
conveying all that information to the sound team takes an immense amount of my time now because you know that's kind of above and beyond the meeting thing, right? Going to a
Yeah.
meeting. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
billable time for
Exactly.
me. It's billable time for me. Because I want it to go right. And if you don't advance it, well, it's gonna be a shit show on day of show.
Yeah.
So you got to do your advance. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance, right? So
Yeah.
the attention to the details, in-ear monitors versus wedges. If you didn't ask that question and the band showed up and
They're like,
they're
where's the
like,
monitors?
well, yeah, like there's wedges, that take up 4 feet of the 8 feet that are left. Um, oh, I thought we were going to get in-ear monitors, and the sound guy goes, I didn't know about that. It's then it's a scramble. And if you've done your show, if you've advanced your show correctly, the thing about day of show is just kind of monitoring the timeline and making sure that the shit gets done.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And not proactive versus reactive. I talked about that
Hmm.
in class today, being proactive versus reactive. But
Yep.
yeah, yeah, man. So
Okay.
that's what's happening in my world. I
Yeah.
think have
Is
we
there
talked?
is there
Yeah.
anything else that you think that people should think about in terms of the
Oh,
value, like
oh my
how you
gosh, value.
value?
Yeah, sure, sure. I wrote down as a resume builder, having an event like the Super Bowl on your resume is a conversation starter, so that might
Hmm.
be valuable. You might take a little bit less money in order to, which I did, to say that I've worked on the Super Bowl and I did 7 of them.
Hmm.
But listen, it's fine, man. I'm not complaining about anything about, getting paid. It was 30 days in a row without a day off, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So resume, relationship building, references, it's all the R's. Going out and just understanding what you might be. Think about what you're worth, right? I don't, and here's my thing. I tell my stage manager students nothing less than $25 an hour. That's my feeling in
Hmm.
California. You should get $25 an hour because you're bringing knowledge and skill. It might not be that much experience, but you're going into a leadership position for an event, right? And I
Right.
try to tell that to the people who are asking me, well, I don't have a budget, so don't they need experience? I go, yes, but they need to eat also,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And they need to pay for textbooks, even though they don't read them. But so that's what I recommend. And if they don't, at least it's a starting point because then the client can go, well, I can do 20, right? Which
Yeah.
is ultimately okay. Like 20 is okay. Like,
Hmm.
it's okay. But then if you go, well, 20, how about 2250? You got to learn how to negotiate just a little bit. Don't say
Yeah.
yes to the first thing. But I know
Hmm.
it's intimidating and scary because you're afraid that if you say 25, they're going to go, no, that's it, right? I'll find somebody else. And sometimes that may happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
very true.
value yourself because if they want you to work for 17 or $18 an hour, um, what are you in for?
Yeah,
What
I
is
think
the
I think there's only so many times you can like if it was the first time and you said yes to that, okay, that might be something to like, that you're gonna get your career started, you're gonna get the name
right,
on your resume, you're gonna take less to get that credit. But,
right,
if it becomes like an every time kind of thing, then it's like, okay, now you're just devaluing the skill and the time
right,
and the effort that you've put into building, this skill set. And I think that if you like if they ask you how much do you want to get paid, which I hate that question so much, but
uh,
um it's like if they turn you down at 25, it's like, well, okay, I guess you don't
it-
value the stage management
right,
skill that
right.
I'm
I don't
bringing.
want to work for you anyway, right? Like,
Yeah,
why would you
it's
want
like,
to?
okay, well, I think I should go somewhere else. It's obviously not a good fit if you feel like I'm not valued
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's tough for. I know it's tough for young people because they yes, we tell them to say yes to everything, but I personally, my goal is to not only help the students but to help the clients that are calling me to explain to them why free doesn't work
Yeah.
and why $18 doesn't work and why I think $25 is it should work. And if they say, Jay, I just don't have the budget, then I go, well, okay, then at least, 20 to 25, 2250. Um,
Hmm.
because if it's a 4 hour rehearsal times 5 days a week, 20 hours, you're talking about $100 more a week. We're
Right.
not talking, between $20 and $25 an hour is $100.
Yeah.
Come on,
And
you
depending
know,
on the company, like they can afford it. I
that's
I
what I
feel
mean.
like
Like,
I feel like there's a lot of organizations, especially nonprofits, because there's this idea that nonprofit doesn't make money. But, like the organization I work for is a multi-million-dollar organization, probably close to $1 billion organization, and they have plenty of money go around.
Right.
So, and if they're producing a gala or this, that, and the other, they're paying union guys at their union rate. So the stage manager is just
Oh, they're
as
they're
valued or
marking it
more
up.
than them. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so it's
And they're
like,
also, yeah, the client has to, if you're doing a corporate gig, the corporate client has the dough too. Like, I
yeah,
don't think they're really questioning, so if your union wage that the IA charges you is 50, I'm sure it's going to 75 to the client. I mean, you
yeah.
gotta, something like that. So,
Oh,
and they don't
definitely.
hesitate. They don't hesitate, right? Some of these
No.
are like, I've talked to my friends who do corporate, technical direction, and they're like, oh yeah, they just added fucking this and that. And I go, do you want to see a change form, change sheet? And they're like, no, just do it.
Yeah.
And okay, great. And it was that made me change the way that I charge, actually,
Hmm.
Brian, if we have just an extra second, is that I used to say, I'd assess the gig. I'd say, okay, 5,000 bucks, right? And and then the gig would grow, right? It would sort of like, hey, we're going to add this, we're going to add a couple of cameras and a couple of this, and now you're going to show call with some camera stuff, and I would still do it for $5,000. But in my head, I'm going, ooh, right,
Yeah.
So now what I do is I charge a percentage of the production budget, like
Hmm.
20%, whatever the production budget is. 20, let's just say 20%, right? So as the budget grows, so does my salary, so does my
Yeah.
rate. So if you have $100,000 production budget, 20% is what, 20,000. If you go to 150,000 and I'm
Yeah.
20%, now I'm at 30,000. So it makes me feel better about the gig increasing and doing,
Yeah, but yeah,
doing more
because you're like,
work,
oh, okay, well, if it's
Yeah.
proportionate to the
Yeah,
growth,
bring it on, bring it on. But it also kind of maybe sometimes keeps the client in, do I really need that? Because
Yeah,
I'm going,
in check,
don't
they're like,
forget that,
oh, we know we got to pay our PM
yeah,
more.
yeah. And sometimes they just go, it doesn't matter. Just, this is what I want. And I go, okay, cool. Let's bring some elephants with, dancing girls on top of them. I mean, let's,
Yeah,
I
that
once,
sounds like a great plan. Yeah,
oh,
it's gonna be
listen,
great.
I had one client really quickly, who shall remain nameless, along with the name of the organization, but very wealthy, very well off. Didn't doesn't the wealthiest person in San Diego? Let's just say, um, but money was important. But the reason to do the event was important too, and we wanted to have Seal be the talent, right? And he was available on the date, and I it was going to be at a private airport in a airplane hangar where we had to move jets out of, and convert the airplane hangar into a party scene. And my dog just went, hey, buddy. Okay, sweetheart, you okay? All right, you go over there. There you go. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have Seal like come out of the airplane, like walk down the steps of like a
I can't
1950s.
hear you, Jay.
Oh, hold on one second. There. How's that? How's that? Um, so I said, well, wouldn't it be cool to have Seal, you know, have a 1950s, DC-3, in the just outside the air, and when Seal made his entrance to the stage, come out the stairs of the DC-3, really dramatic. And they had me price it out, and I found a DC-3 in Florida, of all places, that they could fly to California, and Seal would get, and it's like, I don't know, it's like 90 grand just to fly the plane out here. I'm
Wow.
like, yeah, but those kind of things are fun. You can really have a good time
Yeah,
with things like that.
that's
So
crazy.
yeah, it is. It's all crazy, man. It's the backstage
Oh,
world. It's
I know.
the stuff that
The weirdest
the
things that we have
ir-
to manage and deal with sometimes.
the irreverent behavior of the backstage world of entertainment,
That's
and I
right.
think that's what we should close with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All
what a
right, man.
topic, huh? What a
Yeah,
topic.
good
That,
times, good times. Yeah, good times. Great talking
yeah.
with you again.
Yeah.
And
Likewise.
yeah, and what's coming up next? For next time we talk, I don't know
We
yet.
have
Do
no idea. It's
you?
going to be a
We
surprise.
don't.
Maybe I'll
It'll be
give
a
you a
surprise.
surprise next time.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you didn't know anything about the
I
Value
had
Top. So
no
good,
idea. Yeah.
good
So we
job,
just,
man. Yeah, good
yeah.
vamp.
Yeah.
Love it, love it.
This was a very interesting
Yeah.
topic.
Uh,
So,
all right,
yeah.
everybody.
Cool.
Take
Well,
care,
take care. I'll talk
and
to you
we'll
next time.
see you later. Bye.
Bye.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.